solar coaster, come along for the ride, yeah. The solar coaster's rolling, it feels so right. Hop on the solar coaster, come along for the ride.
Aloha. My name is Anna Covert, and this is the Solar Coaster, the wild ride through the solar industry told by the people who are living it every day. Today in the hot seat is Jack Burleigh of U.S. Marketing Group. Let's get this party started. Jack, please tell me, when did the sun first shine on your solar parade?
Um, Realistically, in the water in Malibu is kind of when I got introduced to lead gen, and I just ended up picking solar out of all the lead gen stuff that we do because it was a concept that I got. Panels go on the house, people get paid. People that buy the panels are stoked on the panels that went on their house. The contractor is stoked on the work that they just did, and that full circled into what I'm doing nowadays is positionally building sales teams at US Marketing Group, kind of in sales at least, leading them with most of the home improvement stuff. Out of all like the debt, mortgage, insurance stuff that we do, construction is really my bread and butter, and solar is a huge aspect of that. And I interface with anywhere. During the height of solar, when loans were really cheap, I was interfacing with around 300 solar companies a month, kind of doing consulting services. Then, like, when we're talking lead gen, I'm known as the garbage man, realistically, in the industry, because most of the stuff that we sell and what I'm known for is just age data and homeowner data. So 300 companies a month talking about garbage data and how to kind of comb through it, get results, and sell systems. So that's kind of a nutshell.
Wow. So for all of our listeners, U.S. Marketing Group, I worked with them for years, providing different clients of mine with all different types of data, age data. We're talking t- post, 3 month, 6 month, 9 month, 12 month, they're older. Homeowners who had interest in before in solar. That was one of the most favorite data sets that we always had to then send to call centers. But there's just so many different types of sources and ways to refine the data down that not everyone always takes advantage of. So, Jackman, what are some tips you have for people who are going to be acquiring data on maybe some nuggets? And I'll give you an example. Like a lot of times when people want to do advertising on, let's say, Facebook, they might say, all right, we want to target parents of children, but that's a very competitive segment. Versus if I
Yeah.
say people who are interested in Gerber's, right? Gerber's
Yeah.
products mean that you have a baby, right? But that might be an easier target, right? So is there any
Yeah.
nuggets of ways that people can start thinking differently about data to get better results?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I watch and I hear on consulting calls is, "Oh, I bought too much." Uh, that is kind of that's the biggest misconception about age leads is like, "Oh, I can get it cheaper." Um, and realistically, our ideology, especially when I train reps, is when you're interviewing, you gotta you have to understand your business owner's essentially engine. We always put it in the analogy of a car because everybody drives a car. Everybody understands a car. We're selling gas. They're providing the engine. They're the driver. So the biggest problem we see is they buy too cheap of gas. They buy a big data set, and then they don't properly work it and get the results that they want, and then we blame the data. Biggest nugget I can give people is understand your burn rate, is how much data you're going to burn through weekly, and then it'll give you your budget from there. So realistically, a simple way to do it: number of employees times number of dials per day per employee. So let's say you're making 500 dials per employee, or else you're fired. So you need to approach it. Hey, 500 or you're fired. 3 reps, you're dialing 1,500 people. Shoot, I wish it shows an easier number. 5 days a week, whatever that is. Do it really quick. 1,500 times 5. Realistically, you're touching on 7,500 points of data every week, just making attempts. And then you got to follow up with it. So maybe 8 cycles. Realistically, you needed about, 7,500 divided by 8, 937. You just needed about 1,000 leads to last you, realistically, 8 weeks. That's how you're going to efficiently enrich that data and not buy too much. So the biggest mistake that we watch people do is they buy too much, which is a good and a bad thing. They don't get the results. Our invoices are bigger. So that's something that we coach and practice, and why we have a great brand. So
Wow. So
that's
about
about it.
1,000 leads, but but you said 75 dials. So you're saying that they're going to call, if it's
Yeah.
per 3 people, don't they all need to have their own unique lead? Or you're saying some are going to be, shouldn't they get a little bit more than that? It just seems like 1,000 would be too low for the numbers you just said.
I mean, realistically, if they're doing 1,000, right, 1,000 leads with 8 like follow-up sequence on it, they're gonna burn the list pretty much every day. So
Oh,
that
burn the
was
list
just
every day.
hypothetical.
Oh, so you need 1,000 a day.
No, well, essentially in your number pool, realistically, what we're coaching is if 1,000 leads, 3 reps sit on it, and each rep's making 500 dials, they're gonna exhaust that list every day. But chances are they're not gonna make a 500, like training and picking up staff. Chances are they're not gonna pick up and actually do 500 dials. It's kind of more of a business owner's approach to buy a little bit more than what they need, and that's an efficient approach to essentially work through 1,000 leads. And I would say that would last them realistically 8 days of dialing because you're doing 8 rounds down the list every day. So a kind of a weekly budget.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And what kind of tools do your best clients use to dial and to track results?
Yeah. Realistically, if you're dialing or trying to start a call center without a predictor dialer, you're trying to ride a bike on the Autobahn. And we tell people that. It just doesn't work. Best systems, in my opinion, are the ones that I have personal relationships with. Chaz over at Call Tools is really good.
Yeah.
Jason at Ready Mode is really good. I have very strong business relationships with them, just because of the consulting that they can offer my clients, and then the customer service that they can offer as well. So like a lot of the time we deal with contractors and they're really talented individual, but you get them in front of a computer and it gets a little different. So just being able to kind of like, oh, you're wanting to start a call center. Okay, call blah, blah, blah. They'll take care of you. I don't have to worry about the dialing system in the back of my brain. So when they come back and say, hey, the performance wasn't good on data, I don't have to have that business owner run the report and show me why the data is bad. I just call their team members who know me by name. It's like, hey, client XYZ with a permission code, this, can I get their dialer report? And then I can dive through it and get more work done for our clients. So I always recommend our network partners because of that aspect. And their services are well known. So it's not like we're hooking you up with Joe Blow.
Absolutely. And actually in my book, the solar coaster, I have a case study with who's the client we share. And I talk with he dives into and we dive into how they built their call center and Chaz also has got a quote in there. And for those who are watching and want to try call tools out, go to my website, solarcoasterbook.com, click on partners, and you can get connected with Chaz right there on the site. And as well as Jack later, if you need some data, we're going to put him on there as well. So tell me, Jack, every ride has its ups, right? That was kind of when over COVID and when there was no, there was a high tax credits and low loans. Okay, now we're on the dive. What are some of the worst, dives that you've seen and how did you bounce back?
The worst dives that I've really seen, the Posse Gen being one, that was just a bummer because that low credit was so great, and
That was recent.
hardcore
That was
credit.
just like, what,
Yeah,
months
that,
ago?
that was a fresh burn. Sun Power, another big one that went out. Realistically, nationwide deal, like nationwide, or I should say nationwide installers built off the back of local installers it's just so hard. And it's like trying to make a miracle happen every day. When I joined the industry in 2019, saying that word, national installer with local installers backing it, just would be complete gibberish because back in 2019, realistically, even on the lead gen side of things, solar was not a rush thing. Like nobody really was doing it because the hardest part of solar was working with the contractors and kind of like they weren't willing to drive. So it was really hard to run marketing. So the best thing that I'm seeing realistically in this dive is like these really talented kids because that's who was coming into the industry was just like auto life and selling solar was the easiest thing to do out there with the federal tax credits, with the loans being so cheap, is watching these really high like sophisticated individuals that are young start now taking on the ownership of installing the solar themselves and getting back to like what I saw 2020, 2019 is just being a local provider and then just crushing your local market and still making a great amount of money. Um, it's just it's just not as easy as it used to be. So like the game got harder, so the game's got to get smaller, and there's just still plenty of meat on the bone, in my opinion. But realistically, that's kind of how I'm seeing people kind of pivot is putting the panels on themselves.
Yeah. Do you think that there are some, in my experience, I had some clients in Arizona, so for instance, and we found that it seemed like almost like that there was so limited number of homeowners, I guess. I mean, and don't think that that should be a thing because it's a big market. But what we kept hearing was that there was so much, I guess, saturation that we would buy data or we would call through it that the homeowners were getting so tired they were like setting up fake appointments. They were, what are your thoughts on different trends across different states? Are you guys watching any of those? Are there any factors to evaluate data trends like that?
Yeah. So there's always stuff that we provide our clients. It's always a little, I always feel bad, like, or I kick myself when I drive home. It's like the window shoppers, oh, I just gave some nuggets too, but it's all good. There is a thing called burnt markets, and realistically, where like an under 30-day lead could just be as valuable as homeowner data at the end of the day. It was just with sophisticated dialing, homeowner data could outperform under 30-day hot leads realistically in the age side of things. Um, so there are burnt markets. Arizona is a great one. Everybody in there, like Arizona, don't get me wrong, is a beautiful place to build a career because of how well accepted solar is. It's just more competition fish chasing those homeowners. So um realistically, if you're calling without branding and like, hey, you saw this ad online, it's just really hard to do. We have clients that do it, and God bless them, they would crush in other markets way harder. You really ask them all the time, like, hey man, you're getting a $600 cost per install, like all the way out, like
Wow, that's
data,
impressive.
every yeah, and there's really talent like hardship breeds excellence. There are individuals battling on the phone in phone rooms in Arizona doing the Phoenix Metro. Like they would go to Oklahoma or North Texas and just destroy. So there are honey holes, is what we call it, where like we because I sell so much, I know, okay, well, this market isn't really being activated on the front end. It's really just being activated on like a 6 to 12 or a 12 plus, and I could slide another buyer in that I like realistically at a 30 to 90 or a 60 to 90 versus them just buying an under 30 and get them a discount because I know there's no front end there. So they could just wait a little longer to buy the lead. So that's why it's so valuable talking to weirdos like me that just sit here and do this call all day.
Wow.
So
I love that. Honey holes. That sounds,
mhm.
I can like see a logo for me in my mind. Yeah. Honeyholes.com. Just kidding.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
spelled
Honey hole. It's down to Phoenix, Arizona. That's a hard one. It's
Yeah,
not a honey hole.
yeah. I mean, I just thought it was so weird that, to think, but then when you start listening to the calls and I'm like, this person is basically just worn out, They'll say anything to get you to never call them again, in some.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else? I mean, I know, we've both talked a little bit about, the shift that we with lovers of direct mail. Tell me what you guys are doing with your direct mail, because I know that you've been talking about it a lot with some clients of mine, and let's tell everyone else.
Yeah, I really think something as old school as direct mail is still going to be able to bring results, and even in a market um such as Arizona where like phone saturation is so popular, right? Like it's you make a cold call, they've heard a cold call, but maybe they haven't seen a custom like 4x6 postcard that's color and good card stock with a beautiful offer on it. And that's where realistically those that do well at direct mail either they get buyer intent data and then mail on top of it with a good offer, get really great success that can lead to what I've seen like as low as $60 call-ins, which is like beautiful. $60 call-in, even in the pay-per-click space, like pay-per-click space isn't as qualified as they saw your logo mailing to it. So for us, where we work with mail houses so much is like, especially in lending, is hey, you're trying to refinance people. That's really great. But what if you were looking at people that have only expressed interest in the last 90 days? Let's highlight those houses and get mail drops out to 1 to 3 times. Like, it's so much better than just buying, because traditionally direct mail is just done with what is known as like homeowner data with really fancy layering of like buyer profiles. So you take it to another level with trigger levels and go high level, which I loved and kind of got us into that conversation. But on top of that, great data on mass mail is really spectacular because it's a new channel. It's another way to bring it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that really opened up for me is like, that and kind of goes back to your earlier discussion about you can buy too much data. And I think a lot of times people, they get out of the idea of thinking that they want direct mail because they sent too much direct mail. They're like, they bought a list or they're doing every door and then they didn't get the response because they only sent one mail out. And then remember, everyone out there, this is awareness advertising. They're not, so you're entering them at a stage where they're not necessarily thinking about you, right? Sometimes you get lucky, just like with door knocking, where the person you happen to send the mail to or door knock was actually just looking at things, thinking of solar, and now you're like right there. But that's usually not the case, and it takes 3 mails to be able to get there. And then if you have a poor online performance or brand association, like so now you could be warming someone up for a competitor to swoop in and get them, right? Because now they get your card, they might want to check you out online. Maybe your website isn't mobile responsive. Maybe it's really hideous. Maybe the phone numbers, it's hard to look at. Meanwhile, now they're looking at solar, Google Ads pops up, or they're seeing an AI result, and there's a competitor, and they look a lot better than you. So I think it all matters. And so what I really was loving was this direct, solar assault that we've been doing, because now you already spent a lot of people in solar that are listening right now. They're going to be nodding their heads. Lead costs are going up, 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 right? If you're not self-generating, like with someone like you or someone like me, right? And you're going and buying leads, you're looking at $35 is like, the very lowest, and that's pretty much throw it away, right? And at the top, it could be 350. And even that, you're like, oh, cool, who knows, right? And so that's the person you've already had some verification that they're human, right? They're a homeowner, most likely that it's real data. That's the person we send mail to. And then it's very inexpensive to target them. And we found, people give up too. Like we both know after, 30, 60, 90 days, a lot of sales guys, they give up. And I think that I've found success when I was selling solar to like be relentless and keep going. And that drip is, worth a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you always have to remember the individual that you're talking to, especially when providing the consulting services, and not everybody has hundreds of thousands of dollars to dispose of for marketing efforts. So it's something that kind of helped me build my brand in the beginning. It was low ticket marketing and getting good success with it through the age leads. So for direct mail, I really only bring it up to the individuals that are spending 60K plus. Realistically, I don't bring direct mail onto the table until we've kind of exhausted like 4 good channels, whether that be their own SEO, age data, pay per click, where it could be on Facebook ads or anything, and then maybe a call center aspect for that age data or transfers coming in as well. Then someone should realistically be looking at direct mail as that kind of fifth versus just pouring it onto the Facebook fire, right? Because you can only spend so much money on traditional like Meta before you kind of hit your market cap and your lead price just raises. It's a fine thing to balance, but mixing your funnels will get you the best results day in and day out. With install payments being so sporadic or non-existent, it's hard to fund. And I tip my hat to the solar professionals that kind of deal with the relentless, oh, it's next week. Oh, it's next week. Oh, you're getting paid, I promise. And it's hard. It's a hard ticket to sell.
So yeah, how do you find you work with 300, you're in the peak, you're working with 300 different solar companies. What is your marketing strategy for finding new customers?
For my marketing strategy directly um was actually given to me from a realtor. Actually, we bought houses, a lot of houses with, and it was your reputation is worth more than any marketing effort that you could ever do. And it's just the mindset that I would approach into when I was getting as many referrals, and we had all these professional networking channels also were a really great resource for growing my book of business so fast. We were partnered with a really great company called Solar CEOs, and they handed a lot of business to us. And a number of other resources like those dialer companies is when you do get those referrals, treat them like gold, realistically, and just regardless of the advice you provide, you better provide advice that will benefit the client. And that has built me a $30 million book of business, I would say, in age data. And the last 7 years is just providing good advice. And that person may, like, I did a call today with a guy that has been working, like, just talking to me for the last 3 years. I have no idea. I hope he buys something, but it's just, he keeps coming back for like, hey, I'm in his situation. So, like, a referral's a best man's friend. So your reputation is worth more than any marketing. I've, for $30 million in data sales, I've never done a dime in like the traditional, like, click here to book a call. So just good work keeps coming around.
Wow, that's good. It's really good. So what are you
Yep.
most excited about? Or yeah, what is your next? What are you excited about that's happening in the industry?
What I'm excited about in the industry is solar pros starting to figure out there's so many other home service things that they can sell. Like, that's what I'm really excited about. Diversifying what you're doing, especially to like energy efficient products, would be an easy step for a lot of people to take. And that could be through ducting or the fucking smart devices. I pardon my French, that one slipped out. Um, and or even just a full big ticket like AC or roofing.
Absolutely.
I think solar, like, if you were running essentially, like, if you were a mid tier manager at a fairly large either EPC or dealership, I really feel that you have a positional or horizontal step that you could take to any construction company and say, hey, will you train me on your type of sales of roofing or whatever it is? And I'll bring basically my solar knowledge and my professional network. And for training me, you'll get a whole other shiny object to sell, realistically. That's what I'm excited to see. And then my client base, I'm hoping, will just quadruple, because not only is US Marketing Group known for solar leads, we can do the other type of home improvement leads as well. So that's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for all the people that I've talked to over the last 7 years to call me back and be like, guess what? I'm a roofer now. Guess what? We do the marketing now for that. So I'm excited for that. And for the people that just stay committed to solar, I just, your headstrong is respectable there. And it, to the other side of it, switching industries, a jack of all is a master at none. So those that are sticking to it, I can't wait to see how you shine, because it's like, I've never seen cards stacked so hard against you. So I'm just excited either way. If you stay in it hardcore, or if you're moving around and selling a little bit more, it's all good.
So what is one of the types of filters that would be like, help? So, I mean, I know we're working with one client in Florida, but, for home efficiency. So they're a homeowner. Is it the age of the home? Is it, purchase behavior that they're looking for? What is something that people can use as like a indicator that someone would be a suitable candidate for an energy, efficiency
Upgrade.
upgrade?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, realistically, through the lead generation efforts of like 2022 to 2023, like that opt-in data was just, there was more than you could get your hands on. And there were so many people looking at just bill lowering and energy efficiency and that aspect. If you're running, like, let's say you're running generators, like the gas generators that just are like that are 12 grand and just
Yeah,
a
Generac.
complete sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Generac. um, the the data that I would be realistically looking at would actually be age solar data that was like 2 years old and it's dirt cheap nowadays. But the biggest problem is buying too much. Contacting that data is then going to be your next step. I think buyers that raise their hand for energy independence or lowering their bill are still suitable candidates for subsidiaries of energy efficiency products. Age solar data would be a great solution. You could go the classic route of looking through homeowner data to the aspects of like what their home looks like, right? 2-story, year build, stuff like that. Absolutely. That is a really easy approach. Either way, whatever we're doing consulting experiences for people, we talk to you about your price per lead is what drives your system. So with the two data packs that we just quoted, it's going to be a subsidiary of 5 cents or less. So that means overseas talent. That means call tools are ready mode, just blasting away, and it's a smile and dial fest. So you need some resilient staff, but it could work, and it just takes the right crew to do it. The biggest things that we always stress: systems and staff, and then someone like myself getting plugged in. I can send you the best leads in the world, but if your system shows the spam likely, it's going to fail, even with the best staff, right? But if I send you the worst leads in the world and you have a great system and great staff, we have clients that ask us for just phone lists that are super cheap without even names on it. They can dial, I've seen it, they can just dial phone numbers and they can just cold call. But those are some really high efficient crews. But that's kind of what we stress, those three things: staff and systems, and then worry about leads.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that that feedback loop is so important. And that's one thing that I always struggle with clients is they're like, hey, like do not like, especially when you buy a lot of data and even from the same provider, like, are we sourcing it? Are we adding a tag so that we know the subsource? It might be US marketing group, but what batch is this batch? That's trying to say, oh, it's working. Or we bought like 50 lists, it's like, okay, well, which
Yeah.
source was it? And then there might be
Yeah.
some magic there, or some
Yeah.
get a bad batch, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's something that people should understand, that not all data is created equal, but it also can change quickly. Just because something works, just like Google Ads, you don't set and forget because it changes quickly. So you have to keep your eye on the ball constantly, make sure that you are tagging these data sources correctly and giving feedback quickly so that people like Jack and other data providers can really take that, digest it, and bring it back to the source and find out, what the reason is, get credits or shift direction before before you become even poorer.
Yeah. I would, to getting a business owner to manage their CRM properly is like getting a lot of people, like, it's as hard as getting people to floss. So we just like, that's why early on I was like, all right, I'm going to cut them out. I'm going to just go straight to the dialer companies. I'm going to make sure they know my name. So when I call and I'm like, this person's telling me I suck, I need to know if I suck. Was this a bad one or is this a good one? And then they're just dropping the ball. So that to attest, like when it sucks and when it doesn't, it hit home because clients will, man, they'll get $600 installs out of Arizona and then get one bad file from you, and then they'll ghost you for months. You're like, what the man? I can't win all the time. Like, I don't even get this. I just ask them for surfboards when they're like, Jack, look how good I did. I'm like, all right, here's the address. I need a 66 Pizel with a swallowtail, please. Right to my house. And they don't show up. So, but it's hard.
It is. Well, this has been great. Why don't you tell everyone how they can get a hold of you? And then, of course, we are going to have a little feature for Jack on the solar coaster book.com, so you can come there and get connected. But he's on LinkedIn. Tell us more, Jack.
Yeah, realistically, the best way to get a hold of me would either be a URL that and I compose, and then it'll basically be a form fill where you kind of request pricing. Really great thing to know is US Marketing Group is doing a huge price overhaul for its age solar leads going into 2026. So it's a good time to talk to us on top of all the other home services systems that we can help you build. That URL will get you connected straight to my email, which then gets plugged over to Go High Level, and we'll start talking from there. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way, 805-256-4403, you can always give me a cold call. But if it's after 5, I'm not answering. So those two are great resources.
Great. Thank you, Jack. And to all my listeners, please join me next week as I interview another industry expert to help you succeed at the highs and lows of the solar coaster. I will see you in the pixels. Aloha.
Hop on the solar coaster, come along for the ride, yeah. Where sunshine meets stories and bright futures collide. We're sparking up ideas with laughter and light. The solar